this is a commentary about Bertrand Russell's outline of intellectual rubbish. Now, he says that God bless you is an ancient custom and an ancient habit of pushing the bad spirits away. Because clearly when you sneeze, the bad spirits are trying to get out of your body, so God bless you makes it all better. Ben Franklin's lightning rod. Ben Franklin says, hey, here's a lightning rod. You know, it helps us from not getting electrocuted. But that used to be the will of God. King George III says, you're messing with the will of God. So he questioned Ben Franklin's lightning rod. Gandhi, the Mahatma, he told his people that after many earthquakes in India had happened, that God himself sent those earthquakes as punishment for India's sins. Copernican Astronomy still hasn't stamped out that bullshit astrology. How is astrology still a thing? How is astrology still around? During the Nazis, you had Hugo Boss and then Coca-Cola's Fanta. You had these corporations making money. They are profiting off the Nazis, but also supplying them with, you know, much-needed clothing and soda pop. So these companies, Fanta, Hugo Boss, they contributed to the misery of the world. Even the Nazis, yeah, I know you might be saying, hey, even the Nazis need some nice and cool carbonated soda pop to drink. Even the Nazis, yeah, and rapists too. And let's not forget the Kung Flu SARS too, the coronavirus, COVID-19. Even viruses need something nourishing, something to nourish and quench their thirst. I mean, you'd let AIDS go without their human rights of food and water? Yeah, you might say that shit, but you'd be stupid as fuck for doing so. Even the Nazis need... What the fuck are you talking about? Fanta and Hugo Boss should not be companies today. It's incredible. Right? They, you know, help finance. They help the enemy. Bertrand Russell's a godson of John Stuart Mill. He wrote this article in 1943 in the middle of World War II. Bertrand Russell says he feels like an old fogey for believing that man is rational. Bertrand Russell searches for man as a rational animal to be true, but he can't find it. And throughout the years, religion has fucked that notion up while man fucks up majorly all the time. We're still here, so Bertrand Russell says he's like Aramus, who found that in human nature, human species, folly is perennial, yet the human race has survived. Aristotle claimed that man is a rational animal because we're good at math. But Aristotle fucks up majorly because he also says children need to be conceived in the winter when the wind is in the north. If people marry too young, Aristotle, he believed that their children will be female. Aristotle is a terrible scientist. The blood of females is blacker than that of males, according to Aristotle. He also thinks that women have fewer teeth than men. Men are just so different than women. Women have different blood, different teeth. The pig is the only animal liable to getting the measles, according to Aristotle, and also according to Aristotle, an elephant suffering from insomnia should have its shoulders rubbed with salt, olive oil, and warm water. So Bertrand Russell, he's the one talking about all this, okay? So Orthodox Christians, he says that they think that euthanasia is a sin because suicide is a sin. But you're allowed to torment animals since they're lower species with no souls, but you can't marry your deceased wife's sister because of some text in the Bible. Orthodox Christian says that euthanasia is a sin because suicide, so you're going to let that person suffer, and then you're going to let animals get tortured, and then the deceased wife, so the sister of the deceased wife, you're not allowed to, because of something in the Bible. He also says that St. Thomas Aquinas is the official philosopher of the Catholic Church. The Orthodox also object to cremation. Orthodox Christians, since Hitler and Nazi Germany and the whole world is about to be destroyed, everybody's freaking out. Everybody was thinking about what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong. At least the people that, that realize that we really need to have an open conversation to say, how in the hell did we get here? How did we get here? So you talk about, let's see, Bertrand Russell, he talks about how there's the worshiping of corpses throughout all these cultures. In Egypt, you see mummification. So they worship the corpse of the people. A French surgeon, he went to China, because he was showing them modern medicine, and he asked the Chinese for corpses to dissect, and the Chinese were outraged. What? You want corpses? No, we won't do that. But then the Chinese offered the French surgeon, to his horror, all the live criminals that he wanted. We will not give you the dead, but we will give you the living criminals. These guys in prison, you can cut them up. So Orthodox, he talks about how the Orthodox Christians, they really, really hate sex. Intercourse outside of a marriage is clearly a sin, but there's even inside of a marriage, intercourse can be a sin too, if there's any measure adopted to prevent pregnancy. So no condoms, no birth control. Even if it's in the medical opinion that it's the only way to save the mother's life, still, the baby must be born, killing both the mother and child if need be. For rich Catholics, nullification of marriage can be found, but not for poor Catholics. And God apparently doesn't see divorce. There is no divorce in the sight of God. Well, he doesn't see Reno, Nevada, says Bertrand. Russell Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi thought that all sex was wicked, even sex in marriage and sex with an intent for offspring. Well, that's really bad for the human species. Mahatma Gandhi, Tolstoy. Some people get morals from sacred books, the Quran, Bible, the Hindu books, Buddhist books. And most of them say murder and stealing is wrong. That's everybody that's rationalist, atheist, but the sacred books also go above and beyond. They ban pork and beef. You ate a hamburger, you had pork loins, you ate some bacon, well shit, you're going to hell, according to these old sacred books. Spinoza says that there's no such thing as sin, since God is perfect, therefore all man does is consistent with the will of God. Spinoza also thought that women were weaker and stupider and dumber than men, and women shouldn't have a right to vote. Spinoza, the Gnostics, Gnostic, the Gnostics believed that the Old Testament is the work of an evil spirit. The New Testament is very enlightening and hopeful, and the Old Testament is just like, burn, die, genocide, fuck you. You're a pillar of salt. Now here's a donkey. Now there's a snake. And now you're banished forever. If we abandon our own reason, then who or what do we rely on? During the Garden of Eden, all the seasons were spring and all the animals were vegetarians. If only Adam had been content with his peaches and pears and grapes and nectarines, says Bertrand Russell. Ever since the Middle Ages, the Jews have been accused of practicing ritual murder. There's not an iota of evidence that the Jews practice ritual murder, but it carries on, it persists. Women in childbirth in Japan aren't allowed any anesthetics for some mystical reason. So in 1943, Japanese women had to take the pain, endure the pain of childbirth. Nazis believe that they're pure-blood Aryan. They're pure-blood Aryan race, but it's not for rational, scientific reasons, just because they like themselves. They, it ministers towards the Nazi self-esteem and towards the impulse towards cruelty. They're pure-blood Aryan. When has pure blood ever been good? Herodotus tells how Cyrus was brought up by peasants ignorant of his royal blood. So Cyrus was royalty, but he was raised up by peasants, so he had no idea. American Red Cross made sure white people didn't get black blood transfused into them, just like the Nazis were sure to not get Jewish blood transfused into them. So the Nazis were racist against the Jews. American whites were racist against the black folks. Spinoza thinks men are superior to women, and women shouldn't have a right to vote. And he also thinks there's no such thing as sin. Watch out for that Spinoza character. Kings think their blood is better than all the others. In Haiti, Jesus Christ statues are black and the devil statues are white. Yugoslavia has great pigs. Monaco has great gambling. Russia's socialism binds them to the entire world. The Russians have an admixture of Tartar blood. Germans are largely Slavonic. France is a mixture of Celts. Germans and people of the Mediterranean race. Italy the same, with the addition of the descendants of slaves imported by the Romans. And the English are the most mixed of all. And the purest races in the world, the Pygmies, the Hottentots, the Australian Aborigines, none are bearers of a brilliant culture. The Tasmanians, they're a very pure blood race of people, but the Tasmanians are completely extinct. So, which side are you? You on the side of the Pygmies and the Hottentots, Australian Aborigines, Tasmanians, pure blood breeds of dogs that have all those DNA and health problems just because people want designer pets? But everybody's got all this different. Russians have Tartar blood. Germans are Slavonic. France has a mixture of Celts, Germans, and people of the Mediterranean race. Italy has black blood. Oh no, oh shit, and then the English are the most mixed of all. The ancient Greeks were intermixed with the northern barbarians and indigenous peoples of Greece. Athenians and Ionians were the most civilized and the most mixed. The merits of racial purity are insane and ridiculous. Pure breeds are a worse breed. They have worse DNA, worse survival, worse diseases. It's weird how the man's name survives and his bloodlines are traced like my grip sugar ancestors, but if blood really meant something, then most of our blood comes from our mothers, so therefore our family tree, we would make sure that we follow the matriarchal bloodlines since they're more important than the patriarchal bloodlines. Yet in the tree, the family tree, mothers and wives are typically deleted out of history because the man keeps his last name. She's got to carry his last name. And so the blood, if we cared about the blood, then we would care more about the matriarchal bloodlines. So we have, you know, the baby has her blood, exact blood. The baby's blood is the mother's blood. And only some of the genetics of the father is carried on to the child. But the baby is the mother. The blood is the mother. Lenin was born a prince. A kulak is a rich peasant who opposed farm collectives. The Great Depression was a direct result of believing in the magical properties of gold. Before Christianity, infanticide, killing babies was almost universal and was even recommended by Plato to stop overpopulation. So Plato's a dumb fuck. Aristotle's a dumb fuck. Hobbes believed in obedience to any and all governments, no matter how unworthy the Leviathan was. It doesn't matter if Hobbes says you got to obey your government. War is not natural. It's not natural to fight a battle one can't win. But also, Sweden hasn't warred with anybody since 1814, and they're the happiest and most content people in the world. Education's origins is noble. We're going to teach everybody how to read and write with public schools, but public schools, we see that it's been perverted by instilling nonsense that unifies population, generates collective fanaticism. Either in our public schools we have no dogmas or all the same dogma. That's the only solution. No dogmas whatsoever. Why would we have a dogma? All medical men says that violence against children increase their own violent tendencies. You beat a violent child, he becomes more violent. Violence only aggravates the problem. Most people enjoy punishing somebody who irritates them. Plato says that those who do not pursue wisdom in this life will be born as a woman in the next life. Oh, you didn't pursue wisdom in this life? Well, you're going to be a woman in the next life. Okay, Plato. Sailors don't like to sail on Fridays, and hotels don't have a 13th floor. We see superstitious bullshit. This religious superstitious bullshit is everywhere. What's human nature? What's natural? What's unnatural? Every time there's any advance in civilization, that's unnatural. The internet, unnatural. The automobile, unnatural. The radio and television, unnatural, unnatural. Every advance in civilization was at first considered unnatural. Clothing and bathing were unnatural at one time. Without clothes, men couldn't live in colder climates, and when there's no hygiene, no bathing, typhus and disease is common. Vaccines are unnatural by some, but broken bones can be mended with a doctor's sling and a cast. Eating cooked food is unnatural. You cook that food? That's not natural. You heated your house? Heating your house, wearing clothes, cooking food. Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu objected to roads and bridges and boats. Those are unnatural. What, you have a road and a bridge and a boat? That is so unnatural. If you're going to swim in the sea, you jump in and drown just like a human is supposed to do, the natural way of things. A common objection to birth control is that it's not natural, but neither is celibacy. Malthus said that you can keep down the population. There's some guy, philosopher, some shit. He had 3 ways you can keep down the population. Malthus says either 1, moral restraint, 2, vice, 3, misery. Generalizations about national characteristics are just as common and unwarranted as generalizations about men and women. Germans were thought to be bi-spectacled professors. French were into sex. The French kiss. Gay French kings. Americans are surprised about how strong the family unit is in France, using ruling class prejudices spread to the general population. If a matter can be solved by simple observation, then go observe the damn thing. Aristotle would have disproved himself had he just looked into the number of teeth women had. And then he would have known that he was wrong, but he didn't even go to look and observe. He just heard it or followed it and said it and repeated it as if it was truth. So where observation can dispel the myth, go, observe. Bertrand Russell heard that hedgehogs eat beetles, but he doesn't know for sure, and he wouldn't write it down unless he saw it himself. Do hedgehogs eat beetles? Who the fuck knows? Now, Bertrand Russell, I disagree with him on this point, but interesting point. He says that he's encouraging us to go talk to people that disagree with us. Go out and travel and talk to those who don't agree with you. Talk to more people and learn what they think and how they view the world. If a person asserts something that's not true, say 2 plus 2 equals 5, you don't hate them, you pity them. If they say Iceland is located on the equator, you pity them. You don't hate them. So to get mad and pissed off, Bertrand Russell says that only shows, the weakness of your argument. But I don't believe that's true. If you're telling me Iceland is on the equator, I do pity you. I also hate you and pissed off at you because you're trying to tell me bullshit that ain't true. Oh, Iceland's on the fucking equator. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. What do I have to prove to you? How do I prove to you that Iceland isn't on the equator? 2 plus 2 equals 5? Are you fucking kidding me? When is that ever true? So I hate ignorance. I can't stand ignorance. It doesn't matter. Actually, I hate stupidity. I hate stupidity. Ignorance, you just don't know. So, where's Iceland? I don't know. But stupidity says, Iceland is only, they have beliefs that don't make any goddamn sense. Bertrand Russell points out how the Manchus wore pigtails and the Chinese used to make their women have small, tiny feet. They would bound up their feet because they thought it was nice and cute and feminine. So the Chinese women would just wrap their tiny feet and actually make it all look, deformed and shit. The Manchus, the men wore pigtails. So instead of just stopping both of these, kind of dumb customs, they picked them both up. The Chinese Manchus, they both wore pigtails, and when their women had, bound their feet to make them small. Mahatma Gandhi deplores railways, steamboats, machinery, and he would like to undo the Industrial Revolution. The Mahatma wants to undo the Industrial Revolution. The Mahatma, that's almost like that one guy, that Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu said that roads and bridges and boats are unnatural. Mahatma is saying the same shit too. Railways, steamboats, machinery, these are all a bunch of Luddites hating science and technology. Man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of the universe. We like to think we're the greatest thing since, sliced cheese, but sliced cheese is way better. Man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of the universe, says Bertrand Russell. We need to fight, combat, kill, fear. Fear can get many folks to do terrible, heinous things. We all need to be free from fear. We can only deceive ourselves and say we're immune from disaster, or we can practice sheer courage. We practice to strengthen our character, to stand up to injustice. Now, you don't want to pick every battle. If you pick every battle, you'll never get to the damn market. You'll fight with every dog that barks with you. You'll never get to the grocery store to buy yourself, some food and some water. Speaking about religious loved ones in heaven, according to one Christian, was an unpleasant subject. Is my daughter in heaven? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to think about it. But heaven is supposed to be a grand and glorious place. Because it's unpleasant. Yeah, death is unpleasant. We should talk about, the realities of death and grieve rationally. The Stoic doctrine of Marcus Aurelius and Spinoza maintain that the only true good is virtue. No enemy can deprive you of your virtue, so there's no need to fear your enemies. Spinoza says that true goodness consists of indifference to our mundane fortunes. Spinoza is just off the goddamn rails. He's saying women ain't shit, shouldn't vote. Spinoza says there's no such thing as sin, since God is good and absolute and true goodness is indifference to our mundane fortunes. That's what goodness is. The sailors who threw Jonah overboard thought that Jonah's presence is the reason the storm that they were experiencing had happened. Oh, Jonah's on board, that's why we got a storm. Well, throw that motherfucker overboard. Even if he goes into a whale, Jonah's thrown overboard and he survives inside a whale. The Japanese killed Koreans and liberals because they were responsible for the Tokyo earthquake, or so the Japanese thought. What? There's an earthquake in Tokyo? We need to kill the liberals and kill the Koreans. They're responsible. When Romans were defeating Carthaginians, the Carthaginians thought that they weren't worshiping their god, Moloch, enough. Moloch wanted the children of rich people to be sacrificed for him, not just the children of the poor. But the Carthaginians were tricking Moloch and just giving him the children of the poor. And so Moloch was not happy, and so the Romans defeated the Carthaginians because they weren't sacrificing enough of their children for this. It's fear that the Nazis realize that they have lost the war, then their attacks on the Jews will intensify. Fear generates impulses of cruelty. Fear is a mind killer. Neither a man nor a crowd nor a nation can be trusted to act humanely or to think sanely under the influence of a great fear. Many men die gallantly, but few ask if their deaths were for a righteous cause. The Abecedarians thought that it was wicked to learn the ABCs. That's why they're called the Abecedarians. Oh, you don't want to learn your ABCs? You don't want to you don't learn how to read and write, and maybe not the ABCs, but some ABCs, some fucking language. But they're the Abecedarians. No, sir, our children isn't going to be brainwashed with those vaccines, that round earth theory, that ABC bullshit. The Abecedarians stayed strong. So throughout history, you see how stupid man has been over and over again. A South American Jesuit was wondering how a sloth was able to travel since Noah's flood killed everything, and then they went to Mount Arafat, right? That's where all the animals were. So a South American Jesuit's like, okay, Noah's flood happens, right? All the animals on Mount Arafat. How did a goddamn sloth travel from Mount Arafat all the way to Peru? How did they cross the Atlantic? How did they cross the Pacific with how slow that they walk? There's no way they could have traversed large areas. No way. That's not possible. So religion is really stupid and dumb, and over again we see how it's stupid and dumb and how it makes people do stupid and dumb things. You increase your fear. The more ignorant you are, the more that you fear. That's why he says, go travel and go talk to people. So Bertrand Russell, that was an outline of intellectual rubbish. That was just kind of a commentary. Just took a couple notes and one action jacks in this goddamn thing. But just to start out, Ben Franklin's lightning rod. I don't see that in America. Maybe King George's suspicion. Oh, you're fighting the will of God. King George, you're fucking mad. You are goddamn insane. What the hell is the matter with you? Then Gandhi. Gandhi is one of the greatest men that ever lived. I respect the hell out of Gandhi and his militant, nonviolent philosophy. But Gandhi did a vow poverty, lived poorly. Therefore, he hated all the modern, things, and even used earthquakes, used people's superstition. Either he believed it himself or he used it against his people. Oh, those earthquakes in India, that's because you guys have been bad. Nah, God's fucking you up. Gandhi should have known better, right? And then Copernican Astronomy. We know so much about the world and the universe, and yet you're going to astrology? Why? Just because they have those horoscopes and it talks about you specifically as a person? Yeah, right. Like the goddamn Lyranians. You're sitting there saying all these constellations. Something happens. There's a big black hole that's, going through the goddamn universe. That could suck us in. Nobody's talking about that in astrology, in the world of astrology. Nobody's talking about black holes and, what the hell? God bless you. It's such a dumb... Achoo! God bless you. I mean, a sneeze, it just gives an height. Anything, just saying anything, it's kind of like, hey, man, it'd be all right. Right? Hey, it'd be all right. That'd be fine with me. Achoo! God bless you. Thank you. Gives an height. Thank you. Sometimes people are sitting there talking to you while you're sneezing. You're in a sneezing fit. Achoo! 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 God bless you, God bless you. Now, fuck off, motherfucker. Let me go through it first, and then, address the goddamn people want to fucking talk and fuck you up, and they think it's hilarious. Ha ha ha, fuck your shit. Ha ha ha. The Gnostics thought that the Old Testament was written by an evil spirit. It was the pure races of the world, pygmies, Hottentots, or Australian Aborigines. None are bearers of blood. And the Tasmanians, I didn't know about the Tasmanians. They're an extinct people. They were very pure blood. But in the ruralist, Eastern Kentucky, the Fugates, they had pure bloods, but they had all those DNA and health problems. It's better to synergy. It's better to breed cows of different breeds, because that 1 + 1 = 3. It makes them stronger. So pure, mixed breed is better than pure breed. Yeah, well, you're a pure breed, whatever. Pure breed, it's a wolf. It used to be a wolf. It's a dog. It's a wolf at one time. A pure breed, it's not even close to being a pure breed of what it once was. We all used to be these ape-like creatures. So yeah, like Aramis, even though we keep fucking up over and over again, we are still here. We have still survived. So, Bertrand Russell, 1943. The Outline of Intellectual Rubbish. John Masters, 11:23 a.m., May 19th, 2020, Southern Colorado. Peace.